fair enough. I would just periodically watch this on Disney
Holy shit,
Channel.
this? Bro, I used to that was the name of that was what that show was called?
Yeah, Brandy and Mr. Whiskers.
God damn. Bro, Disney. It was on freaking Disney. No wonder. I didn't watch Disney very much as a kid. I always looked at that and I just thought, oh, that's for my sisters. It's for girls. They only girls don't watch Disney Channel and crap like that. Me, no. I watched cool shit like fucking the Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends on Cartoon Network and shit.
Yeah.
And maybe some SpongeBob or Danny Phantom. Maybe the odd episode of Fairly Odd Parents or the Jimmy Neutron.
Well, I know that American Dragon Jake Long was Disney Channel. That's solid.
Oh my god, that was actually kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
genuinely, that was pretty goddamn awesome. I liked that.
That was a cool show. Kim Possible was also cool.
Yeah, that's also true. Like, look, we were eating good back in the 2000s when it came to cartoons. What are we watching nowadays? Like, seriously, what are kids watching these days? Fucking Coco Lemon or whatever? Yeah. They have Bluey. At least they have Bluey. That's pretty cool.
Indeed. Okay, well, with that preamble, hi, folks. We're going to be doing something...
Sorry, YouTube. Forgot you were there.
Yeah, we're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be doing a book club. Aspire, and we're going to be going like piece by piece through it. So this was at the...
Get in the live stream, Shy. This was your fucking idea, buddy. Get in here. What are you doing? Why you're not here, buddy?
And honestly, it kind of I would really appreciate. So for context, I really like the group, the Wheel Reads, and one of the things that they do is when they're putting forward their wild fan theories, they just have a guy who has already read the books as the facilitator. That is very helpful, especially when I don't really know where this is going. I like the idea of this, where it's kind of a couple of what it seems to be a thief and an assassin, as the start of the series. But I will say, I didn't like a lot of the word choice here.
Hold on, done. Yeah, right over there. The second paragraph, and also the first spoken line of dialogue. You should have started with the lockpicks. Fortuna said, "Told you, didn't I?" I'm sorry. Told you, didn't I? In response to what? That like.
I guess.
Because when I read that, my brain thought, wait, told you, didn't I? Like, that sounds like she's being snarky after he tries her suggestion and it works. But that isn't what happens. She's just sassing him for the sake of sassing him. Which, I mean, yeah, sure. That's at least that's the charitable read of it. I have a lot of choice words for what I have read, and as everybody knows who's been watching Dunn's channel for a while now, I am the most miserable bastard on the entire fucking face of the planet who cannot enjoy anything or like anything and has to hate on everything, including his own works. So, yeah, that's just that. There's your context for what I think of this so far, having read it.
So you didn't like it then?
I'm gonna be honest. I thugged it out through the first chapter for the sake of being honest, giving it as fair a shake as I could. But then I got over to the second chapter, and it opens up with this action sequence. And look, the action sequence in the first chapter, I just couldn't keep up with it. Like it was torturous, sort of. Not look. It's the way that the action that was described in the first chapter is about as messy as my description of the action has been so far on the stream.
Yeah, so all right, so let's kind of go. Let me pull up the summary. 1 second. Okay, let's pull up the summary in a new tab. So, okay, so for Pale Lights, basically, Vesper's world built on the ruins of old ones. Shadow of that colossal cavern that no one. That's a little bit weird. Okay, empires rise and fall. Civilizations huddles around the pit. Bits of light. Okay, those men. My man is the glare. As the unspeaking stare of the never-setting sun destroyed. But I really don't like this summary already.
You see, I didn't even know that there was a summary. I didn't even bother reading the summary. I just started at the very beginning, friggin' chapter 1. I'm like, okay, let's go and start off at the beginning. And I felt like I was thrown immediately into the deep end.
Mm-hmm. Admittedly, looking at this, I am not really sure that this necessarily helps.
I mean, I'm looking at it as well.
And flat halfway. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. So basically, it seems like this is a fantasy crime story, is how I would kind of look at this.
I pretty much got that impression after reading like the first and second chapters. Speaking of which, where do you want to start?
I think we should start at. Let's kind of look at this. So it looks as though there's some kind of God deal going on where there are enforce the peace between men and monsters. Okay, well, sure. Okay, I think we should just start at the beginning. So we kind of start here with a guy named Tristan Aberskull, and I'm like, cool. He's a lockpick, and he has a goddess as a as
he has an imaginary girlfriend who gives him magical powers to Deus Ex Machina his way out of bad situations. That is how I would describe it. And he is also a thief. And maybe even a Republican. not the political philosophy, the race.
Interesting. Yeah, you noticed the word Republican, but I was like,
I'm sorry. That was the one word in this entire first chapter that basically just sucker punched me out of the story. I had to take an extended break before I went back to reading it. I know I'm sure that the author probably isn't an American, but when an American reads that and he sees that, it's going to their brain is going to fuck around with them a little bit.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just me.
maybe I was like, I didn't really notice that necessarily. My thing is, I was just kind of like periodically thrown out by a lot of the word choices. They
Oh yeah.
Because one thing, like if you notice here, not to be super nitpicky, but everything is like the, and it's very repetitive and annoying. And then I'm just like, eh. Partially because I had that pointed out. Yeah, I didn't really like it.
I mean, here's the thing that irked me when I was reading through this. It isn't really the word choice, and I'm not going to bash on this too harshly because I don't want to give off any wrong impressions or just be a hater for the sake of being a hater. But something I didn't like about what the author just tried to do was sort of have this emergent world building where as you're reading it, you're learning new terms and you're also being told what the meaning and the significance of these things are. And notice the operating word over there, told. I felt like I was being exposited what everything is in the story and at breakneck pace too. Like there's
Yeah.
a whole lot of proper nouns being thrown around, and I have no reference or framing or any sort of groundwork to tie it down to. It's just abstract words being nonsensically tossed around, and the book is sort of expecting me to just figure out and know what it is and why I should care. I'd have it. I didn't get. I think that's the thing that was really missing. I didn't care about what happened in the events of this first chapter. I didn't have a reason to care about Tristan and his imaginary girlfriend. I didn't have a reason to care about him messing around with a guy from the Watch, which, by the way, that word alone, like the fact that is just a member of the Watch, is just the most esoteric sort of word you could possibly. It's just it's so
Esoteric.
nondescript.
What?
Yeah, it's generic. It's nondescript. It's not. It is nothing to tie it down to. It's just this vague thing that we're
So,
supposed to think is important.
so I will lend a counter perspective that the Watch is generally police force in this kind of thing. That's just kind of a generic term.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's
it's basically like he's a policeman functionally, and
yeah.
like the city watch or neighborhood watch. That's what this is referring to.
Oh yeah, no, I understand intuitively what it is based off of the name alone. But here's the thing: I'm not going to say that it's badly written or that the story is bad because because it's just not. It just isn't. I just don't feel inspired by it. It's just
I like kind of a lot of the ideas. I think that it would have been interesting to give a little bit more personality to Fortuna.
yeah. She's
Um,
she's there.
yeah, because it doesn't seem as though Mr. Tristan, and maybe this will happen later, but Tristan doesn't really engage with her
Which
that
is
much in a distinct way, which I think is a little bit of a shame because I like a lot of the ideas of having this kind of mentor in the back of the hand, and it seemed like she starts out with a pretty strong line, but it kind of fades into the background a little bit. So, and this could be partially because you don't like fantasy books. You prefer sci-fi or space opera stuff. Is that fair?
I mean, I'm not going to mince words. I might be a little biased against against this particular genre because almost always it feels like it feels like fantasy almost always falls back on the same set of tropes every time. Which
Such as
uh
because I don't disagree. I'm just interested to see what your perspective is because I might be able to have some might be able to bring up some counter examples.
I've always actually tried poking at why is it that fantasy doesn't resonate with me, and I think it's generally just because of the technology level. I think it could just be as simple as that.
So kind of like
Because,
Noble.
huh?
So kind of like Noble.
That's very unfortunate, but
it is.
I mean,
That's what he said.
It just feels like basically just medieval Europe every single time that I read a fantasy. Like you have to it feels like they have to work a little extra harder to make me not feel like I'm just reading a story about medieval or colonial Europe. Because it's just so well trodden now that it just barely registers. It all blurs together to me.
Yeah, a lot of them. I think
Done. You still there?
yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I think, but yeah, I think that's a fair thing. Where I think if you want actually different fantasy, I would do the Burning because it's I think a lot of it goes to medieval Europe, and they don't go for interesting stuff like Venice. Because I have a few counterpoint are ones that don't do medieval Europe, like the what's its bucket. The First Law series doesn't necessarily do medieval style fantasy. The Burning series is more Bronze Age Egypt technology levels, including having a fully African black cast. There's also the Gentleman Bastard series, which is more Renaissance Venice type.
Interesting. I will give this book credit for one thing, though. I mean, it is definitely trying to be different. I mean, for a start, I mean, there's a fair bit of Spanish in here and some Aztec coded language as well. Hell, I think there's an Aztec coded people here, even. But, I mean, it just doesn't really register. It doesn't. The description of the setting itself doesn't really lend itself to making you think about that. It points in the direction of basically just medieval Europe. Like it's just not specific. There just isn't much in the way of specifics. And as for things like character work or the prose themselves, I don't really feel like the pros are okay. It's enough to communicate what the author wants to communicate, but I think it needs more work. And as for the characters and the journeys that they're going to be on, I mean, it is a journey. It is there. But that's all I can really say about it. So on a journey to become something, but we don't really have much in the way of idea as to what his motivation is as a character. We do have a pretty good idea what the motivation of our other character is. Our second, I don't know how to pronounce her name.
Angarad.
Angarad.
It's a ripoff of Prydain Chronicles, intentional or otherwise.
Well, anyway,
because there's a character with the exact same name in the Prydain Chronicles, but she's a past character. So,
well, anyway, she's a little more interesting in terms of like what her character. We know what her character motivation is. She wants revenge for the destruction of her family, her note, which she's also a highborn noble who's basically been disgraced because her family has also been disgraced, and she wants to achieve vengeance for the destruction of her house. But
And she is
as
constantly pursued by people. I was
yeah,
very confused at this bit. I was like,
I
what?
yeah, I mean, yeah, it wasn't formatted in the best way, but I think I understand what's happening over here. This is the contract with the Fisher coming into play over here. Basically, I think the author is trying to show us that this is what is supposed to happen, but because of her contract with the Fisher, it didn't happen, and something else happened instead, which is really, really neat, by the way. This was a pretty cool idea, and I like that, but I kind of just, I have to shamefully admit that I sort of skimmed through the action sequence over here because the prose weren't very engaging. Like, the description of the action wasn't very engaging. I just couldn't. I just kind of gave up on it at that point. It's, as far as everything else is concerned, it's just I'm gonna wait for that to stop.
Yeah. Sorry. I think, yeah, I'm not sure what this is supposed to indicate. Is it future sight or what? Because it's very much differently formatted. I think that's odd.
I interpret it as basically kind of like an alternate reality.
Oh, like, so she sees possibilities.
What could happen? Yeah.
Interesting, but she doesn't seem to do that in
other
points. So it's kind of
it's the one time. Yeah. And actually, now that I think about something, speaking of inconsistencies within the format and styling, I didn't like the way that thoughts were represented. Like, the author goes back and forth between having the thoughts be part of the prose and being its own separate thing indicated through italices, and he'll even do it in the same paragraph, which, if you're going to do one or the other, you need to pick one. You kind of need to just pick a style and stick to it, because if you constantly go back and forth, you start confusing the audience a little.
I would disagree, actually. Wheel of Time makes frequent use of that kind of thing, where I think at one point there's times where people have let me think. Because in Wheel of Time, there's a point where a guy will be, you wonder what they would think about X, Y, or Z, rather than saying, I wonder what they would think of X, Y, and Z. And admittedly, it's for a let me think, because he's thinking, I wonder what parent would. I wish I knew what pair X, Y, or Z would do in this situation. One versus is another place where he wondered what they would think if they had seen him after helping a foal give birth, covered in blood, helping a mare give birth, broken ribs, and a broken rib, and covered in blood. So It kind of depends. I think the main thing is you got to pick which is the best option to like for the specific thought that you want. So that's my thought, at least. I don't necessarily dislike this. There's a lot of points where I'm like, ugh, I don't like the word choice. I like some of the ideas. This is definitely trying to be different. Like it seems like they're going for a Spanish vibe, and the fact that they have black powder weapons is very unusual.
Yeah.
For a fantasy story.
I mean, it is definitely very neat that they actually just straight up have guns, because guns have been a thing throughout pretty much most of the medieval period, though not very popular in Europe because they hadn't yet gotten access to firearms, nor the understanding of how to manufacture them. The rest of the world, however, yeah, they definitely had guns. Hell, even medieval Japan had guns, though much later on. And yeah, I also got that that vibe too, that they are trying to do something different. It feels more like a Spanish colony in the New World rather than something all the way back in Europe. But
one thing that I will say about this is that I don't necessarily feel like this was well described. The world around us or the setting was well described. Like in terms of like what the location looks like, as opposed since, and I'm kind of comparing this to Wheel of Time, where Robert Jordan Goat does a really good job of setting the scene in terms of the details of what each city looks like, what each building looks like. So he really paints a picture for you. And I don't know necessarily this guy did it, especially since the rest of it is so unique. I just kind of immediately pictured Venice. That's kind of just by virtue of what he was going for.
You see, I imagined for the first chapter, I imagined like this dreary sort of Central European like sort of town in the middle of like a forest, and at times I even pictured it as raining, even though there was no indicator that it was raining. But I guess that was probably just because my brain was registering all this as just a very, very dreary and gloomy area in general. So it just sort of filled in the blanks. And for the second bit, I thought I just imagined some sort of Caribbean colony for some reason. Because I see sabers and I see guns being used in muskets, all being used in conjunction. And my brain, for some strange reason, decides to go more in the direction of pirates, even though there aren't any pirates around. But I suppose that's probably just kind of because the actual town itself wasn't described very well. Like, you actually kind of hit the nail on the head over there with that one. The locations don't have any personality to them. There isn't even any set dressing, even. And unfortunately, I think there isn't really much to talk about with the characters either. The only character that I have anything to talk about is Ingerad over here, but that's only by virtue of the fact that of what she is, not who she is.
That makes sense.
Like, if you asked me to describe the kind of person that Ingerad and Tristan are, I'd come up with nothing, because I feel like I don't have anything to latch on to. And these were not particularly short chapters too, by the way. Like, for some strange
very
reason.
long. Yeah, they're very long.
Reading them felt like it dragged on forever, and that is a combination of me not having any frame of reference for the setting is like, me not having anything to latch onto as far as characters was concerned, and the actual quality of the writing itself in terms of the prose and the descriptions.
Yeah,
I was just sort of waiting for it to get. I'm butchering the phrase. I was just waiting for it to get it over with already. And maybe it's because I went into this with the wrong mindset, and probably because I felt I was reading this more out of obligation rather than enjoyment. But I was hoping that the material itself would be good enough that I would want to read more anyway. And unfortunately, I cannot say that with confidence.
yeah. We should just create and honestly, like, I wish Aspiring was on here because theoretically what he could do, one of the things that I like is listening to is not just having like one person who knows about, like, just rather than having a couple of people who know nothing about it and speculating. It's nice to have somebody who's already read the material to kind of direct the conversation, where he knows where it's going. Maybe there's like little details. It could also be that there are no hidden details. I don't know yet. It seems like this guy is pretty detailed, I would say, but in kind of in ways that might not, that are periodically unhelpful. Like, I like some of his character work. I think I wish that I kind of got a better sense of Tristan. Tristan doesn't really. I was trying to figure out what Tristan was trying to do, and I looked through it a couple times, but I was like, what's he trying to steal anyway? Is he just trying to get out? I'm like,
He's trying to rob this guy because this was a mission that Abuela sent him on, and he wants to prove himself as worthy of being a thief in her service or something like that. And from what I gathered about him as a character is that, well, he's intelligent and he's generally competent and he generally knows what he's doing. And that's it.
He's got an imaginary friend.
Yes, he has his imaginary girlfriend by his side.
And I kind of wish that she had a little bit more personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because one of the things that I like about Peter Pan is that Tinkerbell has even though she doesn't speak, she has a lot of personality because she's kind of Harridan. she's kind of terrible. But I just think that's, yeah, this is definitely different. I would definitely say that this is different. And with this, we're getting a couple of character introductions.
I feel like I want to reiterate this point just that way it sticks. I am not saying that this is bad by any stretch of the imagination. There's definitely some good stuff in here. There's definitely something you can glean out of it. And the author can easily make this just something incredible. But, it's already finished 2 books. So maybe it just gets better as we go on, because I actually do want to know, Aspiring, there's definitely something over here that we're missing that you know about, and that if we know about it, we would probably change our minds on it, or maybe we would be a lot more charitable. But so far, this is kind of a rough start as far as the first 2 chapters are concerned.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of why I was like, hey, aren't you gonna come on this? He was like, don't take it as a given. I was like, you asked for this.
That's very
You
good.
you wanted somebody to. I'm ahead by a lot. Well,
Well, supposedly Trip is not quite happy with our thoughts on this so far, and seemed to have expressed that she is grateful that she could not be on here.
yeah, well,
But
well, I think she's more mad at you. I'm kind of like,
she's always mad at me. She doesn't like me in the slightest. Like my mere existence is enough to piss her off sometimes. But anyway, I mean, I don't really have a whole lot more to talk about. I mean, yeah, Tristan's is generally good at what he does, and he literally has Lady Fortune by his side to bail him out as need be. It's kind of funny that our thief character literally has the goddess of fortune by his side. I mean, I guess you could say it's on the nose or clever or so. We just woke up. It's fucking 1:43 p.m., mate. It's past noon. But goddamn, this stream's already a friggin' disaster.
oh no, I think it's just like we. Well, yeah, it's I don't I don't have like that much of a problem with this as it's written. I think like if I were to kind of rate this, I would definitely say that it is intriguing and I'm interested to read more. But I was like, I'm not really getting very much from it. At the moment, maybe he was just up late, super late last night, and that's why.
I've stayed up until like 2 a.m. in the morning and woke up at the very latest, maybe like 10:30. Well, maybe not even gotten and woken up at 10:30. Maybe it was just 10. But I don't know. I'm not him. It's not my business. As far as my rating of this is concerned, this is just like thoroughly mid, like middle of the road, not the stupid Zoomer way that people use it, but it's not bad, but it's not good either. It's not doing anything for me. I'm not into seeing potential even.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of a Gentleman Bastards, but without the wit necessarily.
Yeah, it could be good. It could get better later on, or it could just sit thoroughly in the middle throughout the rest of the thing. You know, this is actually kind of funny because I remember watching, because I remember like a few weeks back, I was working, and somebody suggested that I watch Code Geass, and I am going to be on a bit of a tangent over here. But they were like assuring me, "Oh yeah, no, it's good. You should definitely watch this." I watched the first 3 episodes, and I just came out with the conclusion that yeah, this is not all that. It's not all good. And frankly, I think 3 episodes is fucking generous as far as giving a show a chance. Usually, you should have a solid first episode. I shouldn't have to wait 3 episodes for me to decide, yes, this is good. Because like this is like in a season of like 24 episodes, and like you divide that by 3 and it's about an eighth of the way through. I could be wrong, I'm not good at math, but we kept on going. It was only around about the 4th episode that things started getting good, and then we got over to the 15th episode and something so awfully thoroughly horrible and stupid happened that it made me want to just quit. And look, I'm not saying that this is Code Geass, but it's funny that something like this has happened to me twice in short order, no less. I can hear you tapping away over there.
Sorry, I'm just like, yeah. So, but yeah, I don't. I think as far as it's very by the numbers. I think that I kind of wish that Tristan had a little bit more characterization, and I think that Fortuna could be more interesting if she had a bit more personality. Like I don't feel like she has she feels very standard.
Define what you mean by more personality. Like what would you do different or suggest doing?
So kind of the first time that she talks, we see kind of this. So we kind of see that she's kind of
she's puffing herself up.
She's puffing herself up, and now all I may call on is a single orphan, one with only with terribly middling thieving skills, and that personality kind of goes away and doesn't really return.
I see what you're talking about, and now that I've been made aware of it, yeah, that isn't a thing throughout the rest of the chapter. She's just sort of there playing second fiddle to Tristan.
Yeah, she just kind of acts as almost his Cortana.
Yeah, I would have liked a lot more if she was more sassy throughout, like if she was just throughout the rest of it. But I'm not sure how that would work because the situation does get rather tense very quickly.
I think also, if he's her only person, she would probably just be desperate to keep him alive, since that's one of the ideas with gods is that if they lose their, at least if gods are forgotten and they have nothing to work through, that kind of limits their influence.
I mean,
and so,
I guess that's the case in this fantasy setting.
At least that's my assumption based on the limited information I have, because she's saying that all she has to work with is a middling thief.
Which is very funny. How did she end up in this situation?
Yeah. And so, and I think that she should have been a little bit more sassy, or even just being desperate, or even kind of I'm also kind of comparing her to some of the gods in David Enning's The Elenium, especially Afriel, the child goddess, because Afriel is really fun. She has a lot of personality.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets into frequent arguments and enjoys breaking the brains of the people she talks to. Because she is working on a plane of she can understand the rules of reality in a way that the medieval people around her do not, and it breaks their brains. And this girl kind of feels like a generic like video game Cortex
Cortana.
Cortana type, who's just kind of in the head of the protagonist. And I kind of, one thing that I kind of was wondering, is she floating outside of things? Is she just a discorporeated voice? Is she kind of leaning against the wall like a spirit? But
I imagine that given that he has a physical description of her, that she is just sort of there, sometimes floating, sometimes not. Really just depends on how she's feeling.
yeah, the weird thing is I couldn't really find like descriptions of it. Like it was really vague and I was very frustrated. I was like, I can't really track where she's at.
Well, I do know that one thing for sure. The description that they gave us is that it is a blonde, blue-eyed white woman in a red dress. And that's pretty much the only description that I have of her, other than she is sometimes sassy, but most of the time is just there and exists to give Tristan a power boost. That's her function.
Yeah. And I just kind of wish that she I like, for me, like when I get this sort of dynamic, it's often funny when because she's very colorful to start and then she's not so colorful.
Well, I mean, I don't think they need to be constantly reminding us of what she looks like. I think the
But not
first
even what she looks like if she is moving around the room, almost like a Tinkerbell type, where like we have where maybe she's like gesturing like impatiently to something, or she's like, "Hey," or like floating around. Because I don't know if I could get necessarily a good sense of like, is she just standing next to him at all times, just whispering in his ear? Is she moving around the room, being curious? Yeah, I just don't know.
I mean, she does point out. She does at least point out the papers on the nightstand. I assume it's a nightstand. It could be a desk. So it isn't that she's completely just vacuous and not at all present, but she is.
It's very it's poorly described.
He could be doing more with her, but again, I'm just going to go ahead and lay off a little bit. I think that this is something that could be getting better as it goes along. Like the author could be finding his stride in these first few chapters, and maybe the rest of it is excellent. I don't really know. I can't attest to that so far, but I mean, we're just going around in circles at this point.
Yeah, I'll keep reading. I'll keep going down this. I don't hate this. I think there's some weird word choices. I wish there were some like bits of improvement that were made. Especially because it's such an interesting idea, and she comes out of the gate really, really strong with a lot of personality, and then kind of doesn't really
nothing.
Continue. Yeah, and it might be, I think I honestly really enjoy it. character dynamics where it just kind of seems as though I don't really feel like I have a good read on their dynamic. Does he hate having her around? Is he frustrated by her? Is he does he like having her around? Is he kind of just like eh? The one thing that I could see was he had a love you too that he just says, but he doesn't really bounce off of her very much.
You know, I will say this. I think that this opening chapter was very anime.
That's fair.
Like, it feels very anime. Take that however you will. But I feel like the opening paragraphs definitely conveyed a lot more personality in the characters than what happens throughout the rest of it. Because I feel like the character just sort of disappears a bit the second he sees the black cloak and realizes who he's robbing. And then at that point, it just becomes, oh, here's a bunch of trivia facts about world building being slipped in as we push the plot forward. And it does. The effect of that is that it distracts from the plot itself. Because we start getting a whole bunch of proper nouns being thrown in over there, and it's exactly as I described already. And I'm gonna be honest. The second chapter, at some point I just started skimming through it, and by skimming through it, I mean, what? Make up your mind. You were just bitching about no world building. No. I was complaining that the setting itself feels extremely bland. Like it isn't very descript, but the world building itself feels incredibly clunky and sort of shoved in there. Like the author's telling us about all these places that are really important, but we don't see them. We don't know what they look like. We've never been there yet. We haven't been introduced to it properly. Well, yeah, it's the first chapter, so, save it up for, you could just hold back a little bit, have some restraint and build up to it instead of just basically force feeding it to us. What? I mean, not really. It feels more like that this stuff is being told to us rather than it being shown to us.
I think that we can kind of give a little bit of leeway because he's having to describe a lot. For me, I would like a little bit more flavor in terms of description of putting us in the immediate environs. That's me personally. I don't know if we necessarily got. I didn't feel like I got much of that. I feel like I was given a lot of information, but it was a little bit divorced of context.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually the reason why I wish Aspiring was on here, so now he can give us some pushback.
Yeah, some pushback as well as that's kind of one of the things that I like about the Wheel of Reeds podcast, and I was hoping to use them as a model because I feel like they have a good kind of system for doing it, where they have a guy that is familiar with it and the material and is prompting questions about the material and what's important and what's not, whereas we're just kind of going in cold and we're just kind of reading it through, giving our immediate reaction. And I'm kind of accepting of this. My thing with it is I just kind of wish that a few elements of it were done better. Like I'm fine with kind of like a lot of lore dumps because that's usually how epic fantasy stuff like this um, does things. I looking at his, I think it would have been. I think that the action is done very well. That's one of the things that I do like about it.
I mean, I'm going to have to disagree with you over there. I felt like the action was. I feel like the prose of when he was describing the action was messy.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, I mean everybody needs an editor. I think I even spotted a little minor grammar mistake when he spelt eyeing. He spelt the word I and then ing. I think eyeing is supposed to be EYING. And this was also in the second chapter, but again, that's like mistakes like that is just like a minor thing, is just sort of expected to happen. Hell, even in properly published books, if I see something like that, I will just like kind of gloss over it because it's inevitable.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
can't.
yeah. There
You
were
can
times
use
where
an AI to filter it out, but then again, even the AI is going to mess up.
yeah, kind of when I was reading, I was like, there were times where I would be like, I'm not sure I like the phrasing. I think this one was one of them, like a farce of hateful lovers. I was like,
Yeah,
I get,
that over there was like, I'm sorry, what?
yeah, I was like, I think I get the idea. I was just like a little bit thrown out. Like there's kind of a few phrases like that periodically, and I think that he does decently well, though I kind of wish that he had capitalized some of the specific names or put them in italics in order to, well,
So, yeah, the like a farce of hateful lovers. That was pretty much like that was the first. That was the first action sequence, the first fight sequence in the entire story, and from my understanding, because I was having issues figuring out where all of this is located inside the room, but that is probably a fault on my end because I kind of began to lose patience with the pros. So I didn't know where exactly the chest that he was breaking into was located in the room. I sort of assumed it was at the foot of the bed because, well, as we see, uh, he they end up fighting on the bed. But it's just sort of like intuitively would make sense for whatever it is that he's trying to steal from would be at the foot of the bed, and so he was trying to take a look at that, break into that, and the second I saw that, oh, there's a pistol being pointed at. So the body on the bed is just a bunch of pillows, and the actual guy was right behind him the whole time. That's pretty gosh darn clever. At least that is what I took away from that. My question is, how the fuck did they end up fighting on the bed? Like, did one of them get punched by the other and fall onto the bed? But how did that happen? And I guess, yeah, and that's a very interesting. Yeah, he was dragged by the man onto the. My brain just kind of did a thing. All right, so my visual map inside my head was in fact correct. So either I probably read it correctly or I guessed correctly. But either way, that's kind of interesting. How the hell do you have a fight on the bed? It's quite kind of an interesting little thing, but Oh, that is a choice. That was a choice that the author made over there, and it resulted in him throwing the blanket onto the guy who, after he pulled out his saber, and he ended up like just beating the shit out of him with the blackjack. Again, it's not impossible for me to follow along with what's happening in the action sequence. I just wish that it was worded better.
Yeah, it's a little bit disorienting, but not necessarily in a good way, is what you're describing.
More or less.
Okay.
Like I remember yesterday I was watching Hot Fuzz for the first time with the fam. Well, with my siblings and brother-in-law. And there was like, well, he wasn't actually there yet, but there was like 50 different cuts all across like the final action sequences, and it got disorienting with how many cuts there were. This is basically the literature equivalent of that. It's not impossible to understand what's happening. It's just difficult to follow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To be fair, I think Hot Fuzz was doing that for the sake of parody, though.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that Edgar Wright is like does pretty much everything in his thing pretty pretty intentionally, I would say.
Yeah.
But it's kind of any other. I think that he does improve
Hold
a little
on.
bit. Sorry, go for it.
Hold on. Let's scroll. Can you scroll back up, because there was actually a bit of there's actually an example of a pro in there that I quite did not enjoy. Let's see. Barring luck, was it? Yeah, that was again. This is why I say that I won't call this a bad book or a bad story, because there are good ideas in there. That was one of them. Let's see. A little further up, something about no duel or something? Or is that down? I don't recall. Here, I'll just go and pull it up on my end, so that way you don't have to torment yourself. Let's see, let's open up chapter 2. And let's see. There's no display duel. There's no display duel, no tournament of skill where the violence would end when blood or surrender issued, but she had learned to kill her fear there, and she would kill it today as well. But I don't understand this very well. I think I know what the author is trying to say, but it got lost somewhere along the way. Somewhere in typing that sentence, I feel like the point was lost.
Okay.
Because
this I hadn't noticed. That's very interesting. Where you can borrow luck. I like that idea. That's actually a neat thing that I didn't pick up on the first time.
Wait, you didn't notice that?
No, I didn't. That
was like the thing that I noticed. Like that was actually the point in there. I'm like, oh, this could actually be interesting. This is a pretty good idea. And the fact that immediately after his luck buff wore off, immediately after he's met with misfortune, which is pretty cool. I liked that. That was a pretty good idea.
Yeah, I just I was kind of I was reading through it, and I just missed that bit. Okay. While I was reading.
No, Trib. I did notice. I did figure that the chest was at the foot of the bed.
I am a terrible reader. I generally don't read books. I listen to books because it allows me to do other stuff while I'm doing it. Because I just skip over. My eyes will just naturally skip over things to go to the next thing. They won't stay in place. It's very frustrating.
Mhm.
Um,
I will fully admit, though, that my patience did wear thin about halfway through reading this, and definitely wore out when I was reading chapter 2. But I don't know if that was because I was basically sabotaging myself in that scenario, or if I just genuinely stopped caring so much.
yeah, I did. Like I just missed those, or they didn't click in my head.
Now, I
Yeah,
did also notice that Miss that no, not Miss Ing Ing Ingrad, yes,
Angarad, yeah.
yeah, she had a contract of her own, the completely different god called the Fisher, and
Yeah,
I
that bit I
I
got.
genuinely
Yeah.
do think that that little cut in the parentheses, that is her contract coming into play. Now, it kept saying she kept drawing upon her pact, and
Which I would say probably. Um,
but here's
oh,
the thing, I didn't know what that meant.
well, pact just means idea or contract.
Oh yes, I know, but I don't know what the details of her pact even is, so I don't actually know what power she's gaining. All I have is the inference right over there with the parentheses. But hey, maybe somebody who's just joined in could probably explain to us what we missed.
I would explain to something that's yet to be shown. You get this
Well,
little bit, and then you learn more as you go on.
Yeah.
I'm not spoiling that.
Well, that's fine. Shai, have you ever heard of the Wheel Reads podcast?
Maybe, but I'm not familiar.
Well, I quite like them because I like the host's way of doing things. We have 2 first-time readers and a non-reader, and one guy who's read the full series. And what
2
he'll
newbies
often
in a
do
vet.
is, yeah, and he will me or Wiss. I don't.
Probably me.
I think I think she's referring to Wiss in this one.
Yeah.
What are you
Yep.
trying to say about the real reads thing?
Well, basically, what he will do is the host, Alan. What he will do is he has read the full series of Wheel of Time, and the 2 other guys have never read it. And what he will do is he will facilitate questions and sometimes lead them off on alternative pathways and mess with them when reading. I'll have to send you the podcast because they're actually really funny. Like, they're very entertaining. They're just on Apple on Apple Podcasts, and I think Spotify as well. But when doing the Wheel of Time, what he would do is he would just ask them questions. He would kind of go through a summary of the chapter, and then he would like establish and point out little things. He doesn't say why they're important. He'll just kind of be like asking questions about, like, what do you think of this? What do you think of this?
Apologies, I'll be back. I need to use the restroom really quickly.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm perfectly fine screwing at you people.
Yeah.
Since you guys were discussing it, you may as well try. What can you try and infer from Angerhad's contract currently?
So what I can see here is that she basically gets future sight. That seems to be the pact. I don't necessarily. Let me see. I'm not seeing necessarily a. So, is it just a downside with a? Is just. Does I couldn't see it. I didn't notice a downside with hers. Maybe I just missed it. That's totally possible.
It is something that is specified eventually.
Okay, so it's not specified yet. Okay, that's fine. Okay, I was just wondering if I had missed it. Okay, that's good. Okay, but okay, so what from what I can see, it's some kind of future sight, and the guy who is giving her that ability is persnickety. That's what I gain from the yeah. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here is that he's a little bit persnickety because he's approving of neither fear nor recklessness, which means like you need to be in balance of some kind, which is interesting.
That is definitely a good way you have phrased it. Trip, remind me, have you gotten the 2 yet? Or has this been spoiling stuff? It's fine if it is. It's only 1 chapter.
Yeah, I think that she read maybe
She read 1. I'm not sure how much you got into.
Yeah.
Because I haven't heard her. I fully expect you got at least Trip to start being highly frustrated with this character.
Okay. She kind of seems like a bit of a Vin archetype. That's kind of what
No.
I have returned.
Oh, she's not a Vin archetype. Maybe
Tristan is closer to Vin, except Tristan's a bastard.
Oh, Tristan's a bad person, or
I said
like,
bastard, but like
I
think
think
you will
illegitimate
learn.
kid. Like an
Not an
illegitimate
actual
kid?
one, just
Oh, so
characteristics. He's a bit of a bat. You'll see.
Okay. I did not necessarily get that from his. He kind of seemed like just kind of a. He kind of seemed a bit more like Locke Lamora from the Gentleman Bastard series.
That doesn't help me.
Oh, okay.
Personally, the outside of his interaction with Fortuna, which was pretty much the only other character in that scene, he also had the encounter with the Black Cloak himself. And from that interaction, he just seemed like he was just bullshitting his way. He was desperately trying to bullshit his way out of it, which is, I'm not sure if that, I can't really say if that's a function of his character or a function of the fact that he is in this situation and he needs to find his way out of it. But I suppose it could also be character. I'd like to think that it's character. I mean, he invokes
by bullshit his way out. Like he clearly has things that are planned and unplanned.
He invokes the law of rats, essentially, to try to buy himself some more time. And of course, the Black Cloak is like, yeah, that's not going to work on me because you're breaking into my place to steal something from me. And everybody supposedly knows what the law of rats is because it's a famous poem.
Not.
So he's a learned individual, and he probably has some sort of a way to. He's probably good at fast talking to some extent, but that doesn't really tell me a whole lot about him as a person.
All right, done. Your 2 cents for a sec before I say anything.
Let me think. I don't know if I have that. Sorry, what was it? Was rambled for a little bit. I'm not sure.
Oh God!
And you say audiobooks are better for you. He was talking about
I-
Tristan's character in the first chapter, what you could glean from it. His was very much.
Oh yeah, the bullshit. Oh yeah, BSing through it. He kind of seemed like a Kelsier type, I guess, where he's very competent. He doesn't seem as ideologically driven as Kelsier is. Let me. I kind of would have liked a little bit more of a clashing of personalities between Tristan and Fortuna. I kind of felt like she was a little bit Cortana-esque.
You keep saying that, but I know there's a Halo fan out there somewhere who's getting absolutely incensed by the fact that you just keep referring to her as Cortana-esque. When I'm
Okay.
willing to bet that they would go on forever about how deep of a personality Cortana has.
Okay. What's the who's the okay, let me pull up. What's the AI in Doom? I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Vega?
Vega. She kind of reminds me a little bit of a Vega.
I mean, I like Vega. I think I like his personality. He has like he's a very he might be an AI and all that, but I feel like he the way that the inflection in the voice and the way that the voice actor voices him, it adds some sort of flair to him that makes him somewhat recognizable. He's kind of like a Jarvis type.
Yeah. Yeah, which is which is why I think that like she does have a personality, but it kind of felt a little bit like kind of the function of her was kind of like Vega.
Like her function was taking precedence over her character.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's another really good point over there, Trip. Because why wouldn't more people? Because the thing with the Fortuna is that supposedly Tristan is her only patron, but there is a whole guild of thieves out over there that is being ran by Abuela, and
That is
wouldn't
not said.
more than I assumed, considering that he keeps referring to her and deferring to her and her authority.
That does not
And
mean
also-
a thieves guild. And it's also mentioned the speculation of what she is.
Could you
Well,
point for the speculation of what she is? Like, where's that at? Let me.
Control F Abuela, you should see it.
It's also capitalized too, so it's not
Oh,
not his actual grandmother. It's just a person with the title grandmother.
mm-hmm. Yeah, she
There.
kind of seemed like. Okay, so this bit, right?
I think you just passed it. Go up again. There.
Okay. So theoretically, this is a double cross. Okay.
She
I
does
got
have a
that.
letter. Wait,
Yeah.
I did check. She gives him a letter.
Yeah,
she
this
does.
this was not a double cross. This was a test, and if he passed this particular section of the test and he gets the letter, he knows where to go next to continue on, because Abuela knows that he's going to end up robbing the Black Cloak, and he's going to get into a shitload of trouble. So she gives him a way out.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I kind of got that. I got that as well, since Fortuna is saying that he is the only person that she is worshipped by or has to work with. So I got that part. So that my assumption is based on it, since that's prominently in the second paragraph. So I was able to get that much, and I do like that idea. It's very much David Eddings esque. Forgive me if other people have put it in there, but have put it in their stories. But that's the one that I can think of off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm. Well, you see, the thing is, for me personally, is that the name Fortuna is very instantly recognizable, and it is a staple of European culture to an extent. The idea of the Wheel of Fortune, that was a way that they represented how, well, quite literally fortune is quite fickle, and that one day you're at the bottom, then the next your fortune is rising, and then you're up on the top before everything plummets back down and you're back at the bottom again. And this wheel just sort of goes on and on and on. Yep, luck, but also literal wealth as well. So the fact that she only has this one guy as a patron kind of, I mean, it's not impossible. I'm not going to say that this makes it bad, but for me, it just doesn't click.
What?
That she would, I feel like she would have way more patrons than just the one guy, but that is that is entirely my personal feeling. It is entirely subjective.
Evidently, she's. I think I might have gotten this from kind of later, but or a comment. There's apparently 3 luck goddesses.
I think they're speculating on something else in real life.
Okay.
Because there was no 3 luck goddesses I know in this world.
Oh, really? Okay, like there's like, because
if there's other luck goddesses, I have not encountered them in this world. It's fully possible there is, but it's like,
yeah, I don't know. Like, I think that Wiz kind of brings up a kind of an interesting point that it's like generally luck goddesses, like there's going to be at least more than one, right? Or unless like
probably
unless there's somebody who contracts with them is different than somebody who's a believer in them.
I will say that the way gods work in the world is a little bit different than how it's normally done. Not significantly, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that bit is...
I should also mention, just disregard any and all rules for her because she is a confusing one. To everyone. I have very few concrete things I can actually say about her because she is still a mystery 3 books in.
Oh. That's...
You learn a bit, but it's very much, yeah, big implications.
Okay. And it seems as though these two are on a collision course, and both of them talk about the trials. Both of them received a letter that talks about the trials. So there's kind of a symmetry there.
Yes.
I mean, that just sort of goes without saying. I mean, why else would he go ahead and have us read about this other character that seems disconnected, if not the fact that she's going to end up tying back into the plot that we just read about? It only made sense that both of these two characters would end up meeting at some point. And I imagine they're going to end up teaming up as well. Because why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what the dynamic is, since it seems as though we're kind of getting the baseline about these two characters. I do wish that... So does... So Aspiring, I read through the first chapter and I was like, I kind of wish Fortuna had a little bit more personality. Because it kind of seems like she's just kind of a video game guide. Like just giving kind of basic instructions after having kind of a really solid first line that characterizes her really well, and then it just kind of... that part of her characterization isn't in the rest of the chapter. Does that kind of come back, or I was kind of a little bit disappointed in that. Okay.
He was on the job.
I'm like fine with like Tristan. I'm just wondering, like, since it seems like
I'm saying. He was on the job, so she's toning it down.
That
Otherwise, she'll get killed.
That was my assumption as well for a while.
Okay.
Well, while I was actually reading it, my assumption was, okay, so now they're actually in, so she's going to try to take this seriously. Still, that bit of personality or dynamic could leak in, sort of slip in a little bit more, but I feel like she sort of fades more and more into the background, which, in all fairness, that's kind of what I would expect a goddess of fortune to be doing in this sort of situation, because she isn't actually the one whose life is at stake over here. That would be Tristan. And so we'd probably have a lot more focus on him. But actually, speaking of chapter 2, because I did remember that this was a plot point that they were going for, was God damn it, Angrad? Yeah? I'm gonna keep forgetting.
Yeah. Angerhad Tredegar.
I just read it as
okay. Sure. The H is pronounced. Angerharad. It's gonna be a pain and a half to say, but
let me check because I know there's a character with a very similar name in.
They are. I noticed that the author is trying to go for her being traumatized by her past, and
it's I pronounce it as Angerad. That's how I pronounced it, since that's how the character with identical spelling in the Prydain Chronicles is pronounced, at least by the audiobook reader, which so
Well, anyway, I noticed that they are trying to go for a traumatic past for this character, and that she's clinging onto it and is having trouble and difficulty letting go, which honestly, once again, it feels more like I am being told this rather than being shown this. But it's not
one chapter.
It is one chapter. It's not something to criticize or really a point of praise, but more just something to note as being important. Well, regardless, I mean, Aspiring, you have heard our opinions, and Trip has also heard our opinions. What do you think of these two chapters on initial read, or at first glance?
Tristan interested me as a fairly intelligent and clever little guy, and Angerhad frustrated the fuck out of me.
Yeah, she kind of is. She kind of reads as a little bit generic, sadly. At least I felt
frustrated me.
Why did she frustrate you? I just felt like she was a little bit generic, like kind of an older Arya Stark type was kind of how I felt about her.
You will see more of the personality trait that frustrates me and many others as things goes on. It's very intentional. There is one of the things that interests me most in the series is the POVs are very different, and you can tell when something is. They're not always reliable narrators, and she is definitely the less reliable narrator. For many reasons.
Oh. Like as in her perception of reality isn't quite accurate?
You'll see. Okay. You have two POV characters to contrast off of, and there'll be plenty of examples for you to see what exactly I mean.
That's actually kind of had the opposite feeling, but I wouldn't say that I was frustrated with Tristan as a character. But
no,
I think, huh?
No, never mind. I see what you mean. Go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, I had the opposite experience that you described there. Although I felt like they were trying a little too much with Angerharad. I'm gonna keep butchering it.
Angerad.
Anger.
Angerad.
Yeah, whatever.
Angerad.
Whatever. I feel like they were trying a little too much with her, but with Tristan, it felt like, he's a thief. He's just a cunning, clever little thief who is just good at his job, and that's pretty much it. He knows his stuff. I can't really say that I despise him or dislike him, because it's like, well, at least he knows what he's doing. That's important, but he hasn't done anything to make me like him. I don't know. We'll probably see as we move along into chapter 3. I'm probably going to at least keep pushing forward, because obviously it seems a little unfair to write off the whole series based off of 2 chapters, especially the 2 opening chapters, because God knows that, every single author, their initial work isn't always their best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely testify that my first stuff was really, 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 really bad, and it will never, ever, ever see the light of day.
Oh, and if you didn't have at least one embarrassing draft that you wrote in your life, can you really call yourself an author?
Definitely not. I look back on some of my old stuff, and I'm like, I just kind of like discarded a lot of my old stories and just like haven't gotten back to them, and just kind of wrote new ones and just treated the older ones as practice.
Bro, there was shit that I wrote that I still can't believe that I wrote to this day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, re-editing Dragon Blaster for publication was hard enough, and that was one of my better things.
God damn.
From when I was 16, like if for the stuff that when I was 14 or 15, I'm like, nope, that not redoing them. That's not worth it. The whole story is screwed. But yeah. Okay.
Now, see, Trip, aren't you glad that you stuck around to at least hear that bit at the end?
Yeah, I do want to continue this, because this is definitely interesting and different. I kind of have a few little bits and pieces of improvement that I would like to have made personally.
Anything
but,
not related to prose?
I kind of would have liked a little bit more awareness of like Fortuna, like kind of what she's doing, like since it was a little bit vague about what exactly she's doing. Is she like floating around the room? Is she just right next to him? Is she kind of periodically like coming in and out of like I guess phasing in and out of invisibility or something like that? Is she, since we know that I saw that she was periodically a face, he's able to describe it, but it was kind of like I was just a tad confused, and maybe I missed something, but I kind of wish that was a little bit more defined, like if she's a Tinkerbell type, or if she's something where she's kind of floating around him, or she can go invisible. She becomes invisible, just becomes a disembodied voice. Is that something that will come up later, or did I just could from that first chapter? I was like, I'm not sure I fully understand what the like. I'm not totally sure what to visualize here. Like I know she's there, but I'm like, is she a voice, or is she like how do I put what's like a what? Oh, this is maybe a terrible comparison. Is she like a Yugi and the Pharaoh, where there's kind of some, or like Astral and Yuma in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal?
You're saying words.
Okay, so
He's comparing it to Yu-Gi-Oh. He's referencing Yu-Gi-Oh, appealing to that to explain what he means by this shit.
I
yeah.
don't know why
Which
you feel
is
like that
baffling.
works for me.
Well, basically, like there's this guy. So these two characters, there is an alien called Astral who is invisible to most of the rest of the population and only visible to the protagonist. And I was just one, and sometimes he'll appear or disappear, and he'll talk to the protagonist. And it's honestly one of the funnier bits of the story is where the protagonist is a really dumb, goofy kid, and Astral is a very robotic, autistic type, where he's like, "You could have done this better or this better. Why are you consistently doing the least optimal plays?"
That doesn't sound autistic at all. That just sounds like freaking backseat gaming asshole.
That too, yes. And he doesn't get human emotion or whatever. And he has a running gag of observation number XX or whatever, talking about, oh, humans seem to do this. But I was just kind of like, is she like an Astral type? Is she like a Tinkerbell type? I was just trying to, or is she kind of a mix of both? I was just kind of trying to figure out like or is she,
what the rules are for her.
well, just like visually what she's doing. I didn't feel like I got a good picture of visually what she was doing, but maybe that's just me.
I'd say it leans more toward Astral.
Okay, so
And
where
that
she's
she
kind of,
hasn't, and she hasn't done the most fucky shit she can do because it annoys him.
oh, okay. Alrighty.
This feels like the book equivalent of getting one guide.
Yeah.
One guide.
Yes.
I don't know what that means.
It's what happens when somebody's live on Twitch or something, and then there's this one guy in the chat that the streamer keeps arguing with.
Yeah. Well, for me, I'm happy to continue. I don't necessarily hate this. There's kind of like some prose stuff that I would improve upon. Like there's kind of just periodically weird phrasing. As far as Angarad, she kind of seems like she's a bit of a I guess kind of a mix of an older Arya Stark and Vin. That's kind of the character vibe I was getting from her. I don't know if that's accurate, but that was kind of my initial impression. Like specifically Arya Stark from the books, more so than Arya Stark from the show. But I don't know if that's an accurate summation. Is that so? Would you say that is correct or incorrect, Aspiring?
Not correct.
Okay. I guess I got the wrong impression. My apologies.
It has been only one chapter.
Okay.
You'll get patterns to finally kind of start defining them more solidly.
I suppose that if I was to rattle off my complaints with the story thus far, it is that I don't feel like it's doing enough showing. It's doing way too much telling, which kind of breaks my immersion a little bit, breaks my ability to engage with the story. And I think, oh, God damn it, I had both of these figured out. I just completely lost the train of thought. Let's see. More showing, less telling, and what was it? World building, yes. Like the world could feel more alive because right now the world feels sterile, sort of. It doesn't feel like there's so much flavor or character to the environments that our characters inhabit. The characters themselves are good. They're okay. or to just quote a little funny spider bug thing, it's fine. It's fine. That's it. That is my summary. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I think that my view is like this I would say has some pretty good potential. I'm interested to see where this is going. But there were kind of periodic points where I was like, ooh, I don't like the phrasing on this. It kind of threw me off at a few points, but it's got an interesting enough premise, and I'm intrigued to keep going. I'm down to I'm okay with examining this for the next foreseeable future, alongside. I know House of the Dragon is coming out next month.
Which, sorry that I couldn't be there to react to the trailer with you guys, but I was also helping my sister move out, so.
No, that's fine. Okay, so end of June is when it's coming out. Okay, so maybe what we can do is figure out another time that we can do we'll do the book club maybe on Saturdays for a little bit, like Friday or Saturday or something like that, like Friday evening or something like that, maybe. But yeah, let's. All right, I think that we can call it good for today. Fairly productive conversation. I'm sorry if this wasn't necessary. I think Wiss is going to be the designated sourpuss, and I'm going to be the guy trying to be the mediator here.
I mean, somebody's got to say something negative. It can't be a complete glaze session the whole way through.
Well, I'm not I don't think that I'm going to glaze it. I'm just going to be like this feels like a kind of a mixed bag a little bit to me, where I feel like I've been pretty fair to the book, where I'm like especially since I think that I have read more fantasy of this nature, like where it seems like it is got a bit of, from what I can tell of this series, this is kind of a midpoint between David Eddings' The Elenium and the Gentleman Bastard series with a Lit Estrid series, with kind of some elements of both. The only thing that I would kind of critique by comparison is that I feel like David Eddings does the character introductions in the Elenium just a tad better. Like he instantly gives you a sense of personality for his main characters. I didn't necessarily get the same impression from this, but I'm interested to see how he develops the characters. And it's just a kind of a natural talent that Mr. Eddings had, is that he can very quickly identify other characters, or instantly and memorably introduce various characters. So, but I think that we'll call it good for today. Any final thoughts?
On for me, or would somebody else like to
Anybody.
go first?
Either.
I mean, it's not my cup of tea. I'll say that much right now, but I'm not opposed to giving it a chance. Aspiring over here suggested that we read it. I trust his judgment, so I'm going to go ahead and carry on, even if right now I feel like it's not working for me, because it could get better. Maybe my issues with it will get addressed, or they will just stop being issues at some point. Who knows? We'll have to see. But for as of right now, in this moment, for the record, I am shaky on this.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, I think that the main problems with this, I'm interested to see more of Fortuna's personality and see if that kind of affects things. I'll be interested to see. That's kind of the dynamic that I am most interested in taking a look at. Oh, okay. Okay, cool. 1 second. Well, it looks like we are doing good. Okay. Okay, great. Well, okay. Well, I was going to do. I'm basically going to hop from one stream to another. I shall continue with kind of a basically a common thread argument that I found very amusing because the guy on the other side was making a movie Bob argument where there are no bad tactics, only bad targets.
Oh my god. Yeah, I saw that on the server being mentioned a few times. I have no clue what's going on. Something about a response to one of your theories under 3R Theories channel. Some guy
No,
making
different one.
comments. Okay.
No, this was a different one. This is a guy projecting the idea of Aegon's conquest being from the Dornish perspective. And I was like, the only way to do that is if they change the Dornish drastically, because one of the primary Dornish characters breaks into a wedding, kills most of the guests, castrates the groom while the bride is watching, then gang rapes the bride and her handmaidens, and then sells them into slavery.
Holy fuck. People said the Red Wedding was bad.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Jesus.
Yeah, so and the guy I brought that specific moment up, and the guy I was debating with said, "No, that was justified. Everything that they do against the Targaryens and those who follow them is perfectly justified because they are conquerors who burn people alive with dragons."
You know, if you behave like that, maybe you might deserve to be colonized. That's all I'm going to... Maybe they might be onto something when they say they're going to civilize you. I mean, unless the Targaryens do something equivocally evil, and I mean, like something very similar to that, I don't think the Dornish have an argument.
Yeah, as well as the fact that the main thing is basically they burn entire towns and cities. But
Who,
it's
the
often
Targaryens?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, no,
These-
now things are a little bit more nuanced. Now there's a bit more of a discussion. I mean, that's impersonal evil, but that sounds like that whole wedding crashing. That sounds very personal evil.
Yeah. Yeah, so kind of the idea is so basically the and also the they responded by burning a dozen villages and burning several in a similar fashion and attacking the city, attacking various cities and putting the castle and their garrison to the torch. Let me think. Basically, it's they also mutilated the prisoners of war by cutting off their right hands. The Dornish did.
I wonder if this person's perspective on things was colored by recent political events. Oh well, who could tell?
I just kind of blame the brain rot of post-colonialist studies. that he's infiltrating our society. That's how I look at it. Especially since what Aegon the Conqueror does, he only reacts with burning large numbers of cities after his men have been slaughtered, and including one event where the Dornish made it a game of cutting the parts off of the castellans and stewards and making a game of how long they could live while they were chopping bits off of them.
Man, that was fucking brutal, man.
Yeah, so it's very much like both sides are kind of bad, but it seems like one side is more like personally sadistic and psychotic than the other. And so it's just like if you try to make the Dornish the protagonist or the point of view in this, especially by comparison to Aegon, who mostly doesn't kill large numbers of people deliberately. Like in his most decisive victory, he only kills about 4,000 out of a 60,000 man army with his dragons, even though because he's the only person with dragons, he could have smoked that entire 60k army.
Well, I imagine that army surrendered because of the dragons.
Yeah.
Because the sheer intimidation of a literal flying, scaly metal beast just raining fire on it. Well, not literally metal, but may as well be metal. Just raining fire on everyone, and they are completely powerless to do anything about it. I imagine any army would surrender if they saw that in the medieval period.
Yeah. But yeah, kind of like I think it was like 4,000 men basically died like really quickly, and then they start running. And he didn't just torch all of them. He was like, no, you can live. It's fine. With show of force over, it's fine.
Yeah. It's like they know not to mess with us now.
And he then establishes the King's Peace, where he says you cannot make war on each other. And also you can kind of govern your own affairs so long as you don't attack each other. Like that's kind of his rule of law. Like he doesn't demand higher taxes. He doesn't like ascribe honors or titles to himself. He just says, just don't kill your enemies. Pay some taxes to maintain the realm, but other than that, you can basically live your lives how you want. So
that's actually a really good policy. Dear God, why are we trying to make him out to be the bad guy?
Because he's a conqueror.
Oh yeah, that's right. Anyway, I think we've rambled on a little too long. We've strayed far away from the topic. We'll continue reading this book. If it gets better, hopefully it will get better. I have faith it will get better. We'll be having quite a few more of these episodes.
Indeed. Yeah, we will definitely. I'm down to keep reading this book and make it a weekly thing. And I will try to maintain in it and keep it going. And be on top of reading a couple of chapters per week. I think is this pretty standard length for these chapters?
It can get longer.
So it'll kind of depend. Okay, well, let's keep it at 2. I think two seems like a pretty reasonable because we can read it and then we can kind of use it as reference. The nice thing is, since it's online, we can kind of use it as reference and just pull it up and kind of look through things. So, okay, let's call it good for today. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.